At 82, I've lived through decades of changes, challenges, and moments of joy. I've had the opportunity to reflect on my choices, both the good ones and the ones I wish I could undo. But there's one decision I deeply regret: the decision to move into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right choice. I thought it would offer comfort and care. My family encouraged it, telling me that I would be safe and well looked after. They assured me that the professionals would take care of everything, so I wouldn't have to worry about the responsibilities that come with living on my own. And for a while, I believed them. I believed it would make my life easier and that I would be more comfortable in a place designed for my age and needs. But once I moved in, I quickly realized the reality was far from what I had imagined. Life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience, it's a complete shift. And there are consequences to this decision that I wish I had fully understood beforehand. Today, I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in, so that if you or someone you love is considering this option, you can make a more informed choice. These 6 regrets are not just about the physical aspects of life in a nursing home. They are about how the experience changes you on a deeper, emotional, and psychological level. Let me share these lessons with you. These aren't just small complaints. They are fundamental shifts that affect your life in ways you may not realize until you've already crossed that line. So, stay with me until the end, because some of these insights may surprise you. Regret. 1. Losing my independence. The first and most profound regret I have is the loss of my independence. Before I moved in, I was in control of my life. I could wake up when I wanted to. I decided when and what I would eat, when I would take a walk, or even whether I wanted to spend the day resting or engaging with others. I made decisions about my life, big and small. I had my routine, my spaces, and my own way of doing things. But once I moved into the nursing home, that autonomy was stripped away. My life was no longer my own. I didn't realize how much I relied on those small daily choices until they were taken from me. The first time I realized it was at breakfast. In my home, I'd decide when I was hungry and what I wanted. But in the nursing home, breakfast was served at a fixed time, regardless of whether I felt like eating or not. If I wasn't hungry, I still had to sit and eat. If I wanted to take a walk, I had to wait for someone to assist me. I couldn't just step out and go whenever I wanted. It wasn't just about meals or walks. Everything was scheduled. When the lights went out, when I had to take a bath, when I could socialize, and when I had to be in my room. The freedom to make my own decisions was gone, and it wasn't just a matter of adjusting. It felt like I was being reduced to a number. I lost control over my own existence. In the first few weeks, I tried to hold on to my sense of independence. I would ask if I could make certain choices, but I soon learned that those questions were met with, "Sorry, that's the schedule." Over time, I adapted, but in doing so, I became less of who I was. I stopped challenging the routines, stopped asking for what I wanted, and just fit into their system. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? It's easy to assume that you're just moving to a more convenient place, but once your independence is gone, it's much harder to get back than you might think. Regret 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths I had to face was how quickly life outside the nursing home moved on without me. When I first arrived, I was reassured by my family. They promised they'd visit often, and for a while they did. My daughter came by once a week, and my grandchildren visited on the weekends. For a short time, it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But slowly, those visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming in person, and my grandchildren got busy with school and work. Holidays became especially difficult. Everyone would promise they would come, but plans always changed at the last minute. And before I knew it, I found myself alone, sitting in the common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping for someone to remember them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me, but life got in the way. And I began to realize something very painful. The longer I stayed in the nursing home, the easier it became for people to forget how much I still needed them. I could no longer share my life with them in the same way. They didn't see me every day, and they assumed I was doing fine, adjusting, and getting all the attention I needed. The truth is, it's easy to assume someone is okay when they aren't physically around. The longer you're away, the less real the need for visits or attention feels. I remember sitting in my room, phone in hand, wondering if I should call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him that I was waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down. And that's when it hit me this was my life now. The days would pass, one after the other, with nothing to look forward to, but hoping someone would remember me. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? No matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's easy to become out of mind. Regret. Losing my sense of purpose. Moving into the nursing home wasn't about just changing my living situation, it was changing my entire sense of purpose. At home, I had a routine. I had responsibilities, whether it was watering the plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space, or just taking care of myself. These little acts, while they might seem insignificant, gave me a sense of purpose. They gave me something to do each day, a reason to get up and move forward. But when I moved into the nursing home, all of that changed. Meals were made for me, the cleaning was done by someone else, and I no longer had to tend to my plants or my space. The things that once made me feel alive were taken from me. At first, I thought it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. I didn't have anything to do anymore. I didn't have a reason to get out of bed other than the schedule of meals and activities. I saw it in the other residents, too. People who had once been full of life now sat quietly, staring off into the distance, waiting for time to pass. One man, George, had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he always had projects to work on, but here there was nothing. I saw his hands, once so skilled and active, now idle in his lap. He told me, "I feel useless," and I understood exactly what he meant. When you no longer have something to care for, when you no longer have a purpose, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind and body both slow down. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? What will you do when the routines and responsibilities that give you a sense of purpose are gone? It's not enough to fill your time. You need something that keeps you engaged, that makes you feel alive. Regret 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I was in relatively good health. Sure, I wasn't running marathons, but I could still walk, cook my meals, and take care of myself. I had my daily routines to keep me active and moving. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first, I thought I was just taking it easy. Meals were brought to me, and I didn't have to stand in the kitchen or do much around the house. But I quickly realized that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving around as much. My legs started to feel stiff. I sat more than I used to, and before I knew it, standing up from a chair became difficult. My muscles, which I had worked hard to maintain, began to atrophy. I wasn't the only one. I saw it happen to others, too. People who had been walking on their own suddenly found themselves relying on wheelchairs. Alice, an 81-year-old woman, had been active when she arrived. She used to walk around the facility every day, but after a few months, she started using a walker, then a wheelchair. One day she said, "I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." The longer you stay in a place where everything is set up to make life easy, the more you forget that movement is necessary not just for convenience, but for survival. If I had known how quickly my strength would decline, I would have fought harder to keep moving. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to stay active and keep your body strong, even when everything is set up to make life easier? Because once you stop moving, it becomes harder than you think to get back up. Regret. The loss of privacy and dignity. Before I moved in, I had my own space. I could close my door and be alone if I wanted. I could choose what I wore when I bathed and how I spent my time. But in the nursing home, privacy was a luxury. Staff were constantly coming in and out. Room checks were scheduled. Shared spaces were a part of daily life. Even simple things like getting dressed or using the bathroom often required assistance. It was hard to accept that I needed help with things I had always done on my own. It wasn't just about physical assistance. It was about the loss of dignity. I no longer had control over my own space, over when or how I took care of myself. And then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so lucky. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or even had cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. You could try to make your room feel like home, but it was never truly yours. Dignity is a hard thing to lose. I didn't realize how much I'd have to surrender until I was already there. When staff knock but don't wait for an answer before entering, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. Regret. 6. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I moved in, I told myself it would be temporary. I thought, if I don't like it, I can always leave. But I didn't realize just how difficult it would be to get out once I was in. At first, leaving seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I'd go back home. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house had been sitting empty for months, and my children had started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need. When I brought up returning home, they hesitated. "Are you sure you can manage on your own?" they asked. "Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you." And then there was the issue of my physical decline. After months of not having to cook, clean, or even walk far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had was slipping away, making the idea of moving back home more difficult than I had imagined. The longer you stay in a nursing home, the harder it becomes to leave. Some people lose the option entirely once their homes are sold or their savings are drained by the cost of care. Leaving isn't as simple as it sounds. The nursing home slowly becomes your whole world, and the outside life you once knew feels like a distant memory. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that once you move in, leaving might not be as simple as you think? The barriers, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be much harder to overcome than you expect. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older, but I do regret believing that a nursing home was my only option. I entered with expectations of comfort, safety, and improved quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly stripped away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even my sense of self. Does that mean nursing homes are all bad? No. Some people genuinely need the level of care they provide. But before you make this decision, take a step back and think carefully about what you are giving up. Because once you move in, life will never be the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home, explored other ways to get help, and made sure I truly needed to move before making such a permanent decision. If you're facing this choice, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me, or is it just what seems easiest right now? The life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, are worth holding on to for as long as you can. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this information helpful, please take a moment to leave a comment or share it with someone you know who may need to hear it.